Standing here in this great hall at Cooper Union behind this particular podium, one cannot help but feel the weight and the insistent voice of history upon us. It's a thread of history that is so often sought by our political leaders in this country and so rarely obtained because it's so hard to do it in good times. The mere ambition to be politically great almost never suffices. And it almost never comes without a moment of crisis, a catalyst, a call. And Abraham Lincoln, when he spoke at this very podium, which, by the way, let's not raise the bar too high for my performance versus Abe Lincoln, he taught us a lesson in that moment by making and articulating what would become the foundation of the Republican Party's moment, by talking about the unacceptability of the expansion of slavery. He understood that the South was never, ever going to break on this question. He understood that the moral dimension of it would eventually lead to a crisis that could tear this country apart, and did. That lesson he taught that night was that political choices are fundamentally moral choices. And that is a lesson that has been too easily forgotten. And I don't like the practice of both sidesism in politics. I try to avoid that. But the American political culture has accepted a disconnect between the political and the moral dimension of our choices. And we're seeing it right now in the White House. As I once was, the men and women on this stage were the architects and operators and storytellers of a political system that we must acknowledge is broken. That we must acknowledge is broken beyond recognition and is insufficient for a country as great as ours. So tonight we'll speak about the purpose and the mission and the future of the Lincoln Project and what it means for the future of a nation that is in crisis. It's a crisis of national purpose. It's a crisis of our character and our national identity. It's a crisis regarding the very propositional nature of this country, that anyone can become an American, that America is an idea and an ideal, not a race, a soil, or a blood type. It's a test of whether we're going to be a nation of idolaters or of ideas. Just as Lincoln couldn't be described as never slavery, we can't simply be described as never Trump. Lincoln was always America, and I like to think that the men and women with me on this stage also are always America. This change in our politics has required each of us to walk away from relationships and friendships and work that we built over years, decades. Oh, I got a lot of mileage. I am old. And it required all of us to walk away from relationships and comforts of our tribal past. And we've seen great and not so great men and women that we worked for and fought for abase themselves and abandon their principles and embrace a kind of low corruption and high treason that sits in the White House today. But we have, as the great political philosopher Liam Neeson once said, a particular set of skills. Skills that make us a nightmare for people like Donald Trump. We are called to this task. We fight hard. We fight very hard. Sometimes you might think we fight a little dirty, but that's the battle we're in today. But we fight hard and we strive for right. We dare, as Lincoln once called this nation to do our duty. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Lincoln Project.